Alright, what's up? I got a new iPhone 14 and I got it through a carrier deal, which is really the only way it's worth getting right now. It's essentially just a rehashed iPhone 13, so if you're buying it at full price, you might as well save the money and just buy a generation back. It's pretty much the same phone. Now, I'm upgrading from the 10R, which was a great phone, and there's really nothing wrong with it now, but I'm running out of storage and constantly needing to dump off photos or apps just to update the OS or other apps. I don't demand too much of my phone, but having 128 gigs base storage seems like a minor request in 2023. In case you somehow didn't know, starting with the 12, I think, Apple stopped shipping charging bricks with the iPhone. And to make matters worse, they changed the included cable to a USB-C to Lightning cable. So the bricks that came with older iPhones won't work with this new cable. The iPhone 14 supports up to 20-watt charging speeds, and the old brick doesn't go that high. Coupled with the new cable, I figure I might as well get a new USB-C brick. On Apple's website, a 20-watt charger is $25, which is surprisingly not obscene. However, considering how much the phone costs at full MSRP, and in comparison to all the shit that you used to get, you can't help but scratch your head. I also needed a case too, so I decided to check those out, and holy shit. I can't say I'm surprised though, so off to Amazon it is. For years now, I've pretty much always gone with Spigen for my smartphone accessories. Their cases are solid and affordable, and I especially love the screen protector aligner. Just perfect. Surprisingly, their MagSafe cases are not much more expensive than the non-MagSafe ones. Certainly cheaper than Apple's offerings. I used to be a hardcore Android user a long time ago. I even rooted my phone and did all that shit. But a few years ago I switched to the iPhone and never went back. I could probably end the video here, but since it may help some people out, I'll tell you what I like and dislike about the iPhone now that I use one full time. In terms of iOS, software updates are just way better on iPhone. Supported devices all receive updates at the same time, no waiting for carriers or anything else that could slow it down. The date that Apple says it comes out is the date that everyone can download it. Support is generally pretty long too. My 10R has gotten every major iOS update while I've had it, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it get at least one more this year. That's 4 to 5 years of software support, which many Android OEMs are only now getting to in terms of a comparable timetable. This also makes it so I'm only compelled to upgrade when I feel the hardware is starting to become dated. When I used to be on Android, I was always itching to get a new phone because I knew it would take a while to get the latest OS update, or that I just wouldn't be getting it at all because support had ended. Getting that update once a year on iPhone helps keep things fresh, even if there isn't always much going on in them. I'm also at the point where I don't really care much for drastic overhauls to the user interface. When I used to use Android, I loved to tinker and constantly change the way my phone looked, and with Android, such a thing was possible. However, as I've gotten older, I just can't be bothered to do that anymore. Some might see this lack of customization as a con, but I honestly don't care. I just want things to work. In my experience, iOS is also extremely stable. I haven't used Android in a long time, so I'm not sure how things are now, but on iOS, things just rarely ever crash. We can't talk about the iPhone without talking about the cameras. iPhone cameras are famously reliable, so I think it goes without saying that, yeah, I like them. I've shot everything on this channel with my phone, and although it's obviously not great, I think it's good enough for what I do. I'm pretty sure there are Android phones that take better pictures, but in most sample footage I've seen, I think iPhone still wins in video and audio. The iPhone can consistently take good to great pictures with little effort, and that's good enough for me. This is probably an extremely hot take, but I like iTunes. I'm one of those dinosaurs that still has a local library, and sorting and syncing music and photos through iTunes is very easy for me. As a PC user though, I do miss being able to use my phone as a USB stick. Android was much more convenient to use with Windows. Now in my experience, battery life has always been pretty good on iPhone. Standby time is amazing, but that's probably due to Apple's aggressive background activity management. I used to try to optimize battery performance by disabling a bunch of stuff or whatever, but ever since switching to the iPhone, I haven't felt the need to do that. To be fair, I'm sure hardware improvements like larger batteries and more efficient CPUs also had a role to play in this. Still, iPhone battery life is superb. Now for some more minor things that I like. The integrated dark mode is awesome. The silencer switch I don't use a whole lot, but it's extremely convenient to have. And there are also just so many third-party accessories. Now let's talk about some of the things I dislike about the iPhone. Most are pretty minor, so let's start with the worst ones. The Lightning port sucks, mainly because I own nothing else that uses it. But also on a technical level, the speeds are way too slow, what with all the 4K and ProRes video you can shoot with them now. The move to USB-C can't come soon enough. As a Windows user, file management is way better with Android. I already mentioned it earlier, but connecting an Android phone to a PC just opens it up like a USB stick. Apple probably doesn't allow this because someone could easily delete something they're not supposed to and fuck everything up. But still, it'd be nice to have the option. Currently, the only thing I can do when I plug my iPhone into my computer is delete or copy pictures off of it. That's fine, but I can't even copy pictures back onto the phone. Let's say I move a picture off by accident and want to put it back. I can't. I'm fucked. I need to do it through iTunes now. And I know I said I liked iTunes earlier, but come on, that's bullshit. This is more of a problem with Apple than the phones themselves, but iPhones are notoriously slow when it comes to getting new features. Software I can forgive because I'm not expecting iOS to be the same as Android, but for hardware, they've been really late on some things. They didn't introduce 128 gig base storage until the iPhone 13 in 2021. They also finally introduced 120Hz screens, but even then they're only available on the Pro models. They only just figured out what to do with the notch on the 14 Pro line. The implementation is often refined, but that doesn't mean it isn't slow as shit. I'm just hoping they don't pull some weird bullshit with USB-C where they only put it on the Pro line, for example. I also miss Touch ID, but Face ID works fine. I'd expect them to do an under-display fingerprint sensor eventually, but when they do that is the question. The stock clock app only has one timer. Let's say I'm cooking multiple things at once, I shouldn't have to download another clock app just to run multiple timers. And my last complaint is that some of the settings for each app are not in the apps themselves. I could kind of see why they thought this might be easier for people by directing them to one app, but in execution, it's just stupid. So as you can see, my minor complaints about the iPhone aren't enough to make me switch back to Android. I know iPhones can be expensive and that there are much cheaper alternatives in the Android space that can achieve everything the iPhones can, but hey, I like it. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Thanks for watching.